There's something so fundamentally important about how you end your stories. The taste you leave in the audience's mouth is one of the most imperative things you can nail as a writer. If that taste is positive, you can leave the audience with the idea that this was all worth it, that it achieved something. I don't care how impressive your parkour is, how high a building you jump off, or what kind of Olympic-level trick you can pull, because if you don't stick that landing, all I can do is cringe when you hit the ground. Game of Thrones is a series I have no personal investment in, but the show, in its heyday, was heralded as one of the best works of fiction put on television. As an outsider, I didn't much care for it. I still don't. But whispers grew of a nameless fear spreading through the show. With the airing of Season 8, general audiences turned on it to the point where there was genuine outrage on the level I, an outsider, was incapable of missing. You'd hear a lot of complaints, but chief among them was that they absolutely destroyed almost every character in the show by the end, which is pretty impressive since it ran for 8 years. I now know exactly to what they are referring. Now, like I said, I am an outsider. I haven't watched an episode of Game of Thrones, nor will I claim to understand its story, the quality build-up and writing that I've heard preceded that abysmal wooden spoon of a script that they made for Season 8, simply by virtue of having watched video essays that cover it. But it is interesting that, in the realm of anime, something which has much lower standards than most television shows in the eyes of people, something would be turned on so quickly. Anime is a bit notorious in that regard. Many have had a bad ending, whether it be because schedules for the manga industry are cutthroat, if it's a studio problem, whatever it may be. But the subject of this video, in the anime community at least, is rather well regarded. Heralded as one of the best stories put to Shonen Jump, with its higher held seasons being number 5 on my anime list and number 6 on Annie list, all its others scattered throughout the top 150 or so. The response to this ending has been similar to that of Game of Thrones, with the complaints being around the same basis. An ending that manages to ruin not only the characters, but also the world, timeline, plot, and themes. How did we get here? Join me in figuring it out, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the wonderful world of Attack on Titan. Funnily enough, GOT? AOT? One letter difference. Same type of ending.
Coincidence? I think not!
Oh, and before you tell me the name is actually Shingeki no Kyojin in Japanese and therefore it's SNK, shut up. Let me have my joke. Anyway. Alrighty, enough of that quiet pretentoid stuff. So, I have what you call a hot take. This is not a video about how AOT fell off or anything of the sort. Attack on Titan? Pretty bad.
Now, alright, I know that sounds bad.
Let me explain. Attack on Titan is not completely bad. There are some good moments and genuinely impressive plot beats, and very few good character moments in there. Sprinkled in between that, however, is the kind of writing that knocks it down a peg. Numerous examples of plot armor, lack of character development,
in a show that lasts 90 plus episodes,
and contrivances drag the show down in terms of quality. It has quite a few positives, though. The animation, with the exception of the occasional CG, is great. The score is perfection. That Tish earns its iconography.
I would never cry to a song, let's be honest. I am a...
But the intro and title do not lie. In order for something to be character assassination, let alone genocide, you first and foremost need to establish character. To break the plot, you need a plot. I think that the best way to illustrate this is to start from the beginning.
The very beginning.
Okay, I know I'm essentially edging you here with this being the, third intro sequence? But I should probably lay out my goal here first. So, barring a few people, most are going to have this video as their first impression of me. In which case, hi, I'm Ninjask, and I talk about media, trying my best to do it from an objective lens. I suspect 3 types of people clicked onto this video. Those being fans of AOT, those who dislike AOT and want to hear someone agree, and those who don't have a horse in this race. To the fans of AOT, I don't know if you are the type of fan who accepts criticism but loves the show regardless, or the guys who won't accept any criticism because AOT is peak and are already commenting without hearing me out. Either way, I hope you do hear out my points, and think about them. Though this shouldn't need to be said, I'm not asking for you to turn on the show or hate it as some people would presume. You are allowed to like things. My goal is not to cause happiness's stock value to plummet, unless you live in California, in which case I couldn't make you any sadder if I tried. I hope that you can, if you don't have a counter-argument, accept my criticisms and come away loving the show regardless. As far as media goes, not much is perfect, and if you love the show despite everything I say, more power to you. If you hate AOT, I hope this can articulate why you may feel that way. And please, don't be unreasonable when someone says they like it. Anime debates get way too heated sometimes, and I'm not here to cause a nuclear meltdown. And for those who may be introduced to AOT for the first time through this, don't write off the show after hearing my take. There is some good stuff in it, and it could be your thing. Flaws, especially big, drastic flaws, can be objective and indefensible. But love for a show or movie is subjective. I love the friggin' Star Wars prequels, and they are bad. Of course, if this video does, in fact, change your love for the show, then good. How does it feel to be right? The structure of this video is going to be as follows. I break down the small, minuscule details of the plot chronologically, pointing out what I find neat and what I find not. At the end of each section will be an overview of everything as it pieces together, being plot, characters, themes, etc. I'm splitting it up into about 7 sections, one for each season and part of a season, ending in a summary of the whole shebang as well as a conversation about the more meta aspects of the story. There will be no cussing in this video, just in case that would put anyone off. However, I am covering the entire thing, so you do at least need to be able to handle the content within the show itself. Finally, this is going to be a review of the anime. If the manga has some explanations or differences, those will not be taken into account. Although, as far as I know, the anime is pretty much faithful to the manga. If the manga does counter some of these points, however, do not bring it up, as the manga heads do not need more fuel for their elitism. Alright, enough said. Let's finally begin with... Our hook opens up with this giant peeking over the wall of a town. As we will soon learn, this big boy is aptly named the Colossal Titan. The narration suggests that something like this has happened before, saying that hard cut to a group of scouts pursuing another Titan. Titans, by the way, are massive, unintelligent humanoids that eat regular humans. They charge at it and use a device called omnidirectional movement gear. Cut to opening. All things considered, I like this. This is a pretty good hook. Talking of the helplessness of humanity that was just juxtaposed by their ability to fight back, establishing the means to do so in the ODM gear. There's a lot to gain from this, from the insane and intimidating visual and the narration to a small look at our main characters. Good stuff. Next we meet our boy, Jaeger, having a dream and crying about moments that are about to unfold. Bit of foreshadowing for ya. Oh gosh. Eren sees some soldiers, led by Hannes, drinking and berates them for not being on guard in case something happens. The soldiers express content living within the walls, saying that slacking off is good, as it means no threat is present. They explain that the walls have stood for over a century. Eren, however, expresses that being confined to the walls basically makes them like cattle, but the soldiers laugh it off and call him helpless. I'll forgive the odd exposition about the walls and Eren's helplessness, as they're drunk. After that, we see a religious cult leader street preaching about worshipping the walls. This is, gonna be pretty funny come season 3. Mikasa, Eren's girlfriend, says that Eren should forget about joining the scout regiment. Just then, said regiment arrives from outside the walls. Having encountered those man-eating titans from the beginning, we see they got their cheeks clapped. Numerous casualties. Despite their spirit, they could change nothing for humanity. The people scoff, and the leader breaks down in lament that they basically know nothing about their enemy, despite the sacrifice. Nothing but good things to say here. Paints a picture of humanity's circumstances, naturally and powerfully, the music and voice acting absolutely carrying it. That's a theme, by the way. The cast is one of the most stacked anime casts I've ever seen, and they always deliver. And the music, though they spam it occasionally, is incredible, like I said. Back to the story, this event changes nothing about Eren's desire for freedom. Eren's girlfriend, and yes, I'll be calling Mikasa that, as the writer didn't bother to characterize her any further, so why should I, tells Eren's parents and the mom flips. But Grisha, the father and doctor, says that words cannot hold back curiosity and leaves, promising to show Eren the basement when he gets back. Bit more clunky dialogue about Eren, and we move to Armin. Armin's getting bullied for winning an argument, and Eren and his girlfriend save him. We have our groundwork. Eren, the determined freedom fighter who desires change but is too weak to create it. Armin, the smart talker with the same dream. And Eren's girlfriend. Then, standing 50-plus meters tall and looking like Doofenshmirtz's inside-outinator hit him, the colossal titan kicks the door down, wreaking havoc in Shiganshina and leading a horde of titans into the walls. Eren instinctively runs to his house, and his girlfriend even more instinctively follows him, but Armin can't move a muscle and gives up hope. Eren's mother is found under a pile of debris, legs crushed, but alive, so Eren and his girlfriend try to get her out, to no avail. Hannes, the drunk soldier from earlier, arrives and seeks to prove himself by protecting all three of them and killing the titans around them. But the millisecond he locks eyes with one, he runs away, Eren and his girlfriend with him. The two are then forced to watch in horror, Hannes running with them on his shoulders, as Eren's mother is eaten by a blonde, smiling titan. An emotional moment to be sure, even with the more or less bare-bones traits we have so far. Aside from some clunky exposition, that was an okay establishing episode. We understand the stakes, bit of our characters, and have a spectacular inciting incident that Eren could definitely do nothing about. Nope. Nothing. Yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, I think this show has quality to it if it keeps rolling like this. We next learned that, over a century ago, the Titans allegedly appeared, and humanity retreated into 3 layers of 50-foot tall walls. How could they have possibly built those walls, you say? Glad you asked, as the show actually hopes that you ask, and builds a mystery around it. Some smart stuff. The Titans continue their massacre, and Hannes admits that he gave up on their mother because he lacked the courage, essentially proving Eren right about everything. The people evacuate further into the walls until the armored Titan charges forward, taking no damage from cannons and tackles the door to the inner gate. The situation is now the worst it could be. Eren, entirely broken, promises to exterminate every last Titan from the world. After the attack on Titan, humanity draws further into the walls, losing 10,000 people and causing a food and housing shortage. Eren dreams about his father injecting a serum into his arm and giving him the key to his basement. Eren then lashes out at some soldiers, but Armin bails him out. Eren refuses to entrust humanity to cowards, reinforcing his desire to join the Scouts. The government then sends a bunch of randomly drafted people, 250,000 specifically, with Armin's grandpappy among them, to die, trying to retake the wall to lessen the food shortage. Needless to say, these guys suck. Be kinda crazy if the king had a bunch of ravenous supporters. So they all decide to enlist into the Survey Corps when they are of age. Eren and Armin motivated by loss, and Eren's girlfriend because Eren's going. Character intro speedrun time. At the military camp where they enlisted, our side characters are being questioned. We have John Kirsten, a guy who wants to become a military police officer and live as far inside the walls as possible, simply for self-preservation. Connie Springer, absent-minded and naive, also wants to live on the inside for self-preservation. Sasha Blouse. Queso. During mealtime that night, Eren is questioned and brings up his goals. Being the best character, John butts in and attempts to call Eren out, saying that the reason he talks big game is because in reality, he's scared out of his mind. So far, there is one thing AOT has been lacking, and that's subtlety. Who is this character? Someone just straight up tells you. What do they want? Someone tells you. But here, we have an actual bit of subtext? John is projecting here. This is exactly how he feels, and he's assuming Eren feels the same. And we're back. Look, it's no secret that anime dialogue is hilariously bad most of the time. This Death Note clip, while not typical of the show's quality, is memed on for a reason. It being a standard, however, does not excuse it. I held off on criticizing this aspect excessively, but this moment with John and the origins of the wall being accounted for later is proof that Isayama trusts his audience's intelligence, to some extent, so why guide us through by the hand like we're blind? More character intro time. Krista Lenz, a do-gooder, solely for the sake of it, and Emir, a friend of Krista who sees no value in good deeds. We'll learn more on them come season 2. I actually have a lot of compliments for both of them. Later, they train with ODM gear, Eren's girlfriend being talented enough without training to qualify as Rey Palpatine. But Eren, however, struggles. Eren gets injured while practicing, and his girlfriend tries to convince him to quit, but he does not, of course. Eren then seeks the help of two ODM geniuses, Reiner and Bertolt, during which it happens again. Bertolt asks if they're from Shiganshina district, and then he and Reiner reveal their entire backstory and goals. This is the norm? Almost every person is this straightforward in the show. Reiner even sprinkles a nugget of truth into his backstory, though, which I appreciate. Again, they get more time to shine in Season 2. It is then revealed that Eren didn't actually struggle at all. It was just faulty equipment. Little disappointing that struggle was completely arbitrary and was just bad luck, but hey, maybe there's a completely logical reason for it. We get a summary of the progress of the cadets, with some unnecessary restatements. Then we get some character building that's actually pretty great. Eren beats Reiner in a practice fight. We'll see that a lot. But then Reiner goads Eren into challenging Annie Leonhardt, who then kicks both of their collective buttocks. Annie then introspects on the world to Eren, remarking how farcical it is that the more skilled you are, the further inside the walls you can get, away from where you are most needed. This causes Eren to snap at John, who reflects this attitude exactly. Eren and Annie have very similar perspectives on human nature. This is genuinely great stuff, and though it's only in the early phases, could be very compelling. Poor exposition aside, this series has potential to be insightful on subjects like suffering, warfare, human nature, and, in some ways, it does realize it. During graduation, Eren makes top 10 and refuses to join the military police. When asked why not, he makes a hopeful speech about how humanity has not lost just yet, inspiring Connie to join the scouts with him. Okay, I guess. I don't know a thing about Connie, so good for him. They then celebrate on top of a wall for some reason. And the Colossal Titan is back. Another compliment I want to give the show. The tone is pretty great. The amount of hopeful moments, instantly juxtaposed by the absolute unbridled despair of a Titan attack, really immerses you into this world and sympathizes you with the characters. Eren seizes the moment to attack the Colossal Titan. He attacks on the Titan, if you will. It kicks the wall's gate down again, proving that this Titan, in addition to its size, has human intelligence. So every Titan has a weak spot, located on the back of the neck, called the nape. As such, Eren uses his ODM gear to swing to hit it from the back, but the Titan creates a hot steam and vanishes completely. So the Colossal Titan can just completely disappear. Okay. Remember that. The scouts then fend off the Titans while the people evacuate. Armin is still having a panic attack, but Eren encourages his hope back to normal, solving the panic attack. Sure, I won't pretend to know how panic attacks work. But I don't think that's how panic attacks work. Cut to the inside of the wall, where a Lord and Commander Pixies are playing. For his intro, we get the subtlety of a sausage slapping your face. Thank you, show. Pixies is informed of the attack and leaves to join it. The Lord, let's just call him Aristocrap, is demanding he stay since he was losing a chess game and is probably not fit to lead, despite Pixies, in Aristocrap's own words, being the top officer in charge of the entire southern territory. Are you dense? He then calls the people at Trost insignificant lives. How cartoonish is this government?
It's rumbling.
More on their incompetence later, by the way. A soldier then says that Pixies is actually competent and was just holding back in the chess game he lost. Of course he's smart, you moron. Why would he be protecting you otherwise? The defense team gets completely wiped out, so the newbies are forced to be deployed. They take it less than well. John, best character, tries to desert. Eren then inspires him by telling him that he's lived this long, so he needs to at least try to survive today. And John jumps into battle just like that. I'm a bit tired of Eren basically being the hype man to everyone, but for John it actually works pretty well. John himself is not a bad person, he just wants to survive. But he really does care for people, so he's not going to turn his back now. This isn't even directly said as well, it is simply something the audience is shown. Though, to be honest, that could just be unintentional, given how much bad exposition we've had, but given John's later characterization, I'd say this is what is meant. Eren's girlfriend tells him that she'll protect him if he's in danger, but she has orders to be nowhere near Eren in the lineup. Eren tells her off, and she listens, because she's Eren's girlfriend, and asks him not to die. We then have a Titan history lesson. So basically, Titans eat humans and only humans, but they cannot reproduce and have no need for food to begin with. So it is unknown how there are so many, and they feed simply for sport. Titans also have regenerative abilities, so you can only kill them by slashing the back of their neck. Back in Trost, the soldiers hype themselves up by treating killing Titans as a way to rank up, smiles on their faces. This almost feels like... An abnormal Titan, basically a neurodivergent massive, eats Thomas. No! Not Thomas. Thomas who... I didn't even introduce because he has 2 scenes. Enraged, Eren then rushes at the abnormal and gets sniped in the leg by another, as the others get grabbed. Armin freezes up and gets picked up and swallowed whole. We then get a flashback to Eren and Armin talking about the outside world and that they hope to explore it. After that, Eren gets determined, and we get our first of many plot armor instances. So Armin, despite in the earlier shot being completely swallowed, is now just in its throat. And Eren, on one leg by the way, gets to Armin in time. Sure, yeah, that tracks. Eren then gets his arm bit off and is swallowed whole. Why? Why do the Titans brutally murder everyone they see, chomping them, snapping their spine before bisecting them with a bite? But Armin gets swallowed whole, and Eren just loses a few limbs. Which ends up having no consequences, by the way. Why? Is it because they're the main characters? Eren, spoilers, is still alive. Why is this the nicest Titan of all time? Because the show ends if it isn't. These are the first major critiques I've made, and don't worry, there will be more. It won't just be me saying dialogue bad, therefore mid. Let's keep going. So Eren's GF saves a mother and daughter, so we flash back to her backstory now. Okay, interesting to take us out of the fight, but let's see where they go with this. Basically, her parents were murdered by traffickers and she was kidnapped. Okay, apparently they meant to capture the mother because she was a pure-blooded Oriental, but they killed her because she was fighting back. She tells Mikasa to run away and engages the axe wielder and knife wielder with scissors. Nice. So she just goes even with this axe guy for a bit, and then dies. Honestly, given Eren's GF's Captain Marvelisms, I would figure that her parents would win that fight, but okay. So Eren comes to save her and beats both the axe and knife guy. He surprises the one guy and slits his throat. Then he closes the door and is chased, but he stabs them with a knife that he attached to a mop in like 2 seconds. Okay, bro. At least his strategy was solid. As he stabs the crap out of a trafficker, he does it while shouting, "This kid is 9, and he is a bit psychotic?" Eren frees his GF to be, but there was a third man, so that guy puts Eren in a stranglehold. Eren convinces his GF to fight, and she kills the guy. Wait a second, why don't we rewind? So how did Eren find the kidnappers? This is a completely different location. Did they just move like 2 meters away? Grisha later says that Eren was supposed to wait for the military police. How did they both know the location of a hideout for human traffickers? Did Grisha tell him? How would he have known? And even if he did somehow know, why would you tell Eren? Also, Grisha then confronts Eren about what happened, and Eren says, and Grisha says, wow. His problem is not that Eren took 2 lives, but that he was reckless in his approach to it. He says that after hearing Eren call them animals and beasts. And this is not a massive red flag for Grisha. We will get to Grisha eventually. By the way, me mentioning how later seasons ruin things is not the fault of this season. Even if the series was all planned out, which it was, at least sparsely, these moments are not undercut by this season. There was time to adjust. It was a failure on the writer's part to adapt the story, or possibly the failure of the studio, as I know some changes were made, but to my knowledge, again, the show is pretty much faithful to the manga. I wouldn't recommend writing on the fly, but contradicting yourself has worse results. The good scenes show that Isayama undoubtedly has some talent, so I doubt he'd have done nothing good by changing up his draft a little bit. So Eren gives her the scarf and the flashback ends. That was, messy. Oh yeah, we were in a battle. The supply lines get scared and retreat, and John calls them all cowards. Goat. The current state of affairs is that if they don't seal the wall, everyone's going to die. But everyone has pretty much given up already. Eren's girlfriend shows up because Eren might be in danger. Feminism. Not in the East. Eren's girlfriend first asks if Armin is okay, then asks about Eren. I appreciate that she does actually give a crap about Armin first, but I digress. And Armin's voice acting by Marina Inoue is awesome. In reaction to this, Eren's girlfriend calls everyone cowards and says that she can win by herself, and if not, she'll just die, motivating the others to stand and fight with her. Out of pain, she accidentally uses too much of her fuel and dies. Yeah, flying that fast and hitting a brick rooftop, she is at least out of this fight. So she gets up and walks around after jumping off of the roof. What? Back to the good characters. John struggles with the responsibility of watching his comrades die. Best character. Eren's girlfriend then keeps fighting because Eren said so. Again, she does this with what is essentially that scene from Black Widow having happened to her. Then a Titan saves Eren's girlfriend. After switching gas canisters with Eren's GF, Armin comes up with a plan to lead the strange Titan to the supply room to kill the Titans that invaded. The Titan saves John and the others just in time, and Armin explains the plan. We then get some neat foreshadowing from Reiner. In the supply room, Armin has them drop from a lift and shoot out the Titan's eyes, then the most capable warriors kill them all. Armin has some really strong characterization here. Him being weak and frail, but also the guy with a plan is a nice dynamic, even if it's pretty common. John again doubts himself, but Marco, who I haven't brought up yet, so that should tell you something, reassures him that he made the right call, and his weakness lets him sympathize with other people. In case you haven't noticed, John is a character I basically only have compliments for. Annie and Reiner convince John to help the strange Titan, as it could be a powerful ally. Some more foreshadowing for you. Despite being surrounded, the strange Titan goes specifically after what killed Thomas. Then Eren emerges from the Titan. He was the Titan all along. So Annie, Reiner, Bertolt, Armin, and Eren's GF retrieve him from the field. Again, keep note of this moment. It is rather egregious later. So the reason Trost had suffered such heavy losses was that the Survey Corps elites were on a recon mission. We then get introduced to a few of said elites. Hanji Zoe and Levi Redacted. Hanji is like every female character in this show. She has one trait. She is fascinated by Titans. Levi, however, has two character traits, being cool guy and respecting his fellow soldiers. That being said, this character intro scene for them establishes this well. It's just a shame there's nothing else to them. Especially Levi, showing him destroying the Titans and then sending off a fallen soldier by congratulating him for helping humanity is pretty powerful and leaves an impression. The commander, Erwin, who I will talk about at length as I have only compliments for his handling in this show, tells them that they need to move out. We then get a flashback to Eren inside the Titan's stomach, surrounded by corpses. Eren then gets a little too pleasureful while thinking of killing every single Titan. Seriously, just look at that expression. So the General Coward Man orders his men to kill Eren, and, by proxy, his girlfriend and Armin. Eren struggles to remember the battle, but sees flashes of his father, Grisha, injecting him with a syringe and telling him that this power will help him, but will impair his memory. But he must master it and reach the basement, and... compelling mystery. Sure hope the answer makes total sense. Eren subconsciously bites his arm and creates a Titan arm to stop the execution. Eren then emerges and ponders why his father would have hid this information. I wonder. Eren and his girlfriend think of fleeing, but Armin struggles with the concept. Eren then asks Armin to convince them to use the Titan power for the military. Why exactly would they put this much pressure on him? Armin, who had just failed them hours prior. Armin is forced to fight his self-doubt and cowardice in an attempt to save his friends, and realizes that his friends trusting in him is proof that he is worth something, even if he can't see it in himself. So he makes a fire speech, again, perfectly delivered, but the guy named Worm doesn't buy it. In the nick of time, however, after hearing the speech, Pixies decides to hear them out further. So I want to talk about this scene for a moment. So, wow. That was pretty great. That's a perfect example of one of those shining character moments that this show has. Eren deciding to leave with the revelation of the basement and his girlfriend attempting to join them, as you'd expect given their characteristics. Worm and the soldiers completely abandoning logic in the face of the unknown is great for the atmosphere of the world. They've lost so much that the only thing they can reason, even when tempted with the incentive to learn more, is that Titans are bad. No doubt a commentary on humans and their nature. Combo that with the incredible payoff of Armin gaining his self-confidence for the sake of his friends, or family, as he sees it, then cap it off with the commander interfering, demonstrating his reserve and calmness in a tight situation. It's pretty incredible. This is what I mean by this could be your thing, by the way. This series is not garbage incarnate. There's plenty of good within it, and I completely understand how it gained such popularity. Okay, that's not completely true, but you take the good with the bad. But AOT is not just these scenes. It's also the ones where Eren's girlfriend flies into a building and stands up, or a Titan tries to not eat people because main character. Pixies proposes that Eren could attempt to plug the gate in Titan form with a massive boulder. There are a lot of jokes I can make here, but, no. The soldiers lose their cool, equating Trost with hell, and some would rather face execution than return. But Pixies, with a speech of his own, rallies all of their hopes, reminding them of their reason to fight. Everyone is assigned to protect Eren, and he is to block the gate. Eren gets to the boulder and transforms into a Titan, and alright, it's getting a bit predictable. The hopeful music, the hyping up, sprinkle in a few victories. You keep juxtaposing this build-up, it's kind of repetitive now. It will make the moment they succeed feel more earned for sure, but you're sacrificing previous scenes by making them predictable. The humans are forced to protect the mindless Titan Eren out of sheer hope. John, best character, his gear breaks, and he's forced to run around in a Titan-infested town, using only his resourcefulness. In doing so, he spots a fallen comrade's ODM gear. Contrivance? Sure, a bit, but defensible? Definitely. This many fallen soldiers, and I can believe that at least one is nearby. Armin jumpstarts Eren's consciousness by reminding him of their dreams of the outside world. Again, Armin getting his time to shine. You love to see it. At this point, he's on track to be one of the best characters in the season. Let's hope they keep it up. The troops help John escape from his situation, and, oh, look, Annie saved him too. What a nice person. Eren executes the original plan, lifting the boulder as the OST hits like a colossal truck. It feels earned and extremely uplifting, like there's some hope somewhere in this world. Not bad, show. The humans bait the remaining Titans away from Eren. One of the humans tells Eren's GF, to which she responds, while blushing at the thought. Finally, some real Asian representation. Eren monologues about how we have to fight, and if I hear one more speech, dude, you are seriously spamming the whole motivational speech thing. Armin and Eren's GF help free him, but are attacked. Levi then shows up and one-shots their attackers. Levi's pretty cool, by the way, just in case you haven't noticed yet. After the battle, the Titans within the walls are completely wiped out, with 2 small ones being taken for research. Marco died, by the way. Who is Marco? Someone I mentioned once because he was introduced literally just to die. That happens quite a bit early on in the show. Levi expresses interest in recruiting Eren so they can seal up Wall Maria eventually. And if not, he says he'll just kill him. This is what I meant by he's cool. Not that I think he is, but that every scene with him is meant to make you go, wow, so cool, and distract you from the lack of anything meaningful. Basically, he's like Jotaro or Boba Fett before he...
Like a panther. Yes.
So now, we have a debate. My favorite. The premier, Dallas Zachary, will now decide whether the scouts will get Eren or the military police do. If the military police get him, they will execute him. I know this because... rigatoni gozaimasu, show. Hanji shows up, and so does Joe Biden, who gives this miner a good smell test. Interesting that we needed that. I'm sure we won't be seeing the likes of it any further. Now it's time for our court scene, just like my favorite show, She-Hulk Attorney at Law. A random civilian makes a good point here. He asks, Why not simply seal all the walls with structures similar to the boulder? Something that massive in scale is basically Titan-proof. We would never have to worry about an attack on Titan again. Levi counters that with, fair point. It would certainly not be easy despite the massive reward. In addition, the conversation raises the issue that the growing land and food shortages are increasingly worsening. They need more land and crops, meaning cutting themselves off from that would mean, however long it'd take, certain death. Compliment here, the world building is pretty strong so far, and this provides a seal for what could potentially have been a plot hole. It also creates extra tension toward the success of our heroes in the form of adding a time limit. Then Pastor Nick intervenes, declaring the walls are a gift from God himself. Apparently, this wall-worshipping religion has been gaining ground among the people, and the zealots are bad people. How do I know this? Never a dull moment with you. The military police leaks Eren's backstory, and this sparks some outrage. Apparently, Eren and his girlfriend killed 3 kidnappers when they were younger, and that worries people. I wonder if they're just mad that he was reckless, too. Eren snaps and calls everyone cowards, so Levi beats him in front of everybody. This power play convinces the Premier to let Levi use or kill Eren at his own discretion, so he goes to the Survey Corps. Later, we see the tooth that Levi kicked out has already grown back, establishing that human titans also have regeneration while in human form. Eren is taken to the old Scout Regiment HQ, which is now abandoned because it was too far from both the wall and the river, where the scouts are meant to go. What? Look at this castle. Do you realize how long that would take? They don't even have current day technology, by the way, so even slower than you're thinking right now. How on earth did nobody think it was a bad idea to build an HQ for the guys who traverse outside the wall and drink water near neither the river or the wall? They probably had like months to reconsider at the very least. Oh, but we need it now, so I guess it exists. You are in a resource crisis, and you wasted months or years on this. I do apologize for all of that. Most of this is just me getting ready for their antics in season 3. A dude tries to intimidate Eren, but bites his tongue because of his horse. The fact I didn't say his name should tell you something. A bunch more named soldiers are introduced who don't last long enough to matter, and we are also spoon-fed Levi's characteristics. She even goes out of her way to mention that he's shorter than you'd expect. Because the audience is blind! Erwin plans an immediate expedition outside the walls to demonstrate Eren's benefit to humanity. Eren explains that Titan transformation can only happen when injured. Hanji then explains the characteristics of Titans a little bit more detail. Individual Titans seem to have different personalities. They rely on the sun for energy, and they don't feel pain. She also explains that their limbs are lighter than they should be, seemingly pointing to there being something lighter behind the Titans. I wonder if you can guess what this twist is setting up. Then, as Hanji regales Eren with her only personality trait, reports show up that the Titans they captured have been killed. Erwin does the meme. Due to the speed at which it occurred, whoever did this must have used ODM gear, meaning that the enemy is human. Dun dun dun. John, best character, struggles to cope with Marco's and potentially more of his friends' deaths, but remembers Eren's speech and Marco's last words to him, resolutely declaring that he will join the Scouts. Ladies and gentlemen, we've done it. We got him. A character arc has been achieved. Give this man a medal. Somebody call my mom. The troops' ODM gear is then inspected just before the troops choose their regiment. Erwin explains the basement plan and the cowards all leave. Conveniently, every character we know joins the Scouts, with Annie being the only exception. As such, the new recruits leave to execute the plan and see if they can get Eren to Wall Maria. We then meet Commander Ness. I said his name, not because it's important, but because Smashy Bros! Erwin, however, has a secret agenda with this plan. John then explains to Eren that they're counting on him to show his worth so that they can give their lives with full confidence. Okay, so the plan is that everyone forms a semicircle and fires a smoke signal if they spot a Titan. Then, in reaction to the red smoke signal, Erwin will fire a green one, indicating their new direction. This will allow them to avoid any Titan encounters, barring any terrain blocking their view or abnormals. Both of these things do occur, though, and are neutralized by combat. A smart plan. Until a lone female abnormal catches up to them, running at insane speeds. The soldiers attempt to kill it, but it reacts and kills both of its attackers as if it understands ODM gear, causing Armin to piece together that it is most definitely an intelligent, human-controlled Titan. Now, pop quiz. Do we know a blonde, female character who is not with the Survey Corps right now? Nope, must be a new character we haven't met yet. It's not like there is one suspect in everyone's head right now and literally no one else fitting the description. Also, the right flank has been completely decimated by an army of Titans brought by the female. This 20-second scene we get for it accomplishes two things rather well, actually. An explanation for why this Titan didn't get overwhelmed by the soldiers on the outside of the circle, and foreshadowing for an ability the female Titan has. I especially enjoy the subtle touch by implying that this Titan has weaknesses. It felt the need to bring reinforcements. It can be killed, and it knows it. It knocks Armin down, causing his hood to fall over his head. As it reaches to kill him, it takes his hood off, looks him in the eye, and leaves. John and Reiner catch up, and Armin informs them that he thinks it's looking for someone since it specifically took off his hood, that it's most likely looking for Eren. Guess it couldn't see he was blonde from when it was chasing him. Anyways, so the female Titan is blonde, human, knows what Eren looks like, and has spared Armin. Any guesses? Thought not, let's continue.
本当にジャンなのか。俺の知るジャンは自分のことしか考えてない男のはずだ。あっただ。誰のものとも知れねえ骨の燃えかすに怒りされたくないだけだ。アルミン、お前はエレンとベタベタつるんでばっかで気持ち悪いって思ってたけど、やるやつだと思ってたぜ。
The dialogue is still the same. I think this. Why do you do this? Because I feel this way. Well, I feel this way about you. I will continue to complain about the dialogue, and no, it still doesn't get a pass because it's anime. One media should not be held to a different standard than others. The dialogue in these scenes has the potential to be rich and meaningful, but I will highlight it in the hopes that it strives to do better. Plus, you can't even use that excuse, as this show used subtext with a character who is in this scene. Reiner then compliments the Titan's cheeks, by the way. It's also worth saying that I think the dialogue in this scene could work in isolation. Heat of battle, bad situation, characters can be frank in these moments realistically, but not all the time, not constantly. Planning to distract it so that the formation can withdraw, they notice that the female Titan has slowed down, inferring that it may be tired and not consistently able to reach top speed. A good restriction to place, and a necessary one. Otherwise, she would simply be outrunning everyone, making the stakes non-existent, as she can simply just decide to win. She can only enter short bursts of speed, allowing her to gain on the horses more than she loses when she slows down. This all tracks. Alrighty, that's the last compliment you're going to get for a while, because we're about to get into goofy territory. So John tries to attack her legs to immobilize her, and the exact second he does, she turns around because she noticed Armin. No way she heard them over her own footsteps. John got the worst luck, man. Also, she blows a gust of wind with her hand to blow off his hood. Kinda wondering why she didn't just do that with Armin? Was it for the sake of the audience, so we could have our attention, perhaps? She could have just kept running and saved time. Did she just not want to blow Armin? Also, she then identifies John with his hood off from a distance. So she saw John from afar, but when she ran up on Armin, she couldn't tell who it was? You can't say that she needed to see his face directly anymore, because she doesn't even do that with John. Also, she then knocks Armin off his horse, and he breaks his neck. Just kidding, Armin has plot armor made of adamantium. It just makes his head a bit bloody. This ain't even the worst of it. Also, as the Titan almost kills John, she stops where Armin tells John to avenge that suicidal idiot, Eren's nickname, feigning Eren's death. Recap, this Titan is female, blonde, good at combat, understands ODM gear, knows Armin and Eren, and responds to his nickname. I genuinely hope nobody was surprised by the twist. And we're only halfway through the scene, gents. John spontaneously becomes an idiot, and Armin's bluff goes right over his head, thinking he went insane and is talking nonsense. Now I see why everyone in the show speaks so straightforwardly. Nobody can understand otherwise. Okay, so let's get to the bigger question in this scene. Why does Eren's nickname cause her to spare John? She has a willingness to kill en masse and simply stops because she hears the name. Why? If Eren is dead, why spare John and stop dead in your tracks? That doesn't change that someone's attacking you. Your life is in danger. Don't worry though, I'm sure we have a lot of time yet to be spent with this mysterious female titan. I'm sure we'll get our answers then. It's ironic because I'm foreshadowing with the subtlety of this show. Reiner seizes this moment to attack and gets caught. Idiot. Well, he's getting crushed now. Look at how little room there is in her hand. I doubt he has room to do much of anything. And he's gone. Whoa! I'm gonna stop you right there. Let's break this moment down. In this shot, Reiner's legs are sticking through one side of her hand. In this shot, Reiner's shoulder and head are sticking through the other, meaning her hand is roughly the size of his torso alone. Yes, by the way, I am this autistic. Get used to it. So when she crushes him, nothing is visible, and blood spurts. Now neither are visible. So his body has been crushed down to the size of his chest. All of that mass reduced down to that part of his body. He is dead. No one is surviving it. Yet, he's all good, man. Yep, like nothing happened. This is the first season. The egregious plot armor's supposed to start later. He runs up to Armin and picks him up. He's in top condition. Oh, never mind. His sword's broke. It's okay then. Hang on. If his sword's broke and he's not touched, where did the blood spurt even come from? There is a recontextualization of this scene later, which adds another issue to it, by the way. We'll get there when it comes up, but this scene is genuinely a disaster. John just writes that off as Reiner is talented. What? So they decide they've bought enough time and run. Wow. The nitpicks, compliments, and plot holes have been mostly isolated until now, but that was a piss grenade of contrivances and plot holes and plot armor chain attacks. This was truly the first terrible scene we've come across on this journey, and we haven't even introduced time travel yet. Yeah, that happens. And I have things to say. Moving on. We just jump cut to them elsewhere. I guess no Titans showed up along the way. That's okay. Not like they could since the right flank got cooked or anything. John is aware of your bullcrap, Isayama-san. I hate when this is done in writing. This is what we call lampshading. Basically, you call attention to stupid thing and hope audience forgive stupid thing since you recognize it yourself. I honestly believe that in most scenarios, lampshading a flaw is worse than not noticing. It's lazy and indicative of the fact that you simply can't be bothered to go the extra mile despite the fact it would improve your work. So you say, I'm in on the joke. I know it's bad too. I am an artist. And before you ask, yes, this is a personal attack against Isayama. In fact, everything in this video is. I hate this man I've never met and you should probably condemn me for it. No, please don't interact with me in the comments. No! Armin zones out and thinks about the female Titan. When Reiner snaps him out, I'm surprised he doesn't just say, I'm thinking about the possible identity of the female Titan, my good training buddy Reiner. Or maybe he was just thinking about her cake. Heh. They fire a signal and Krista arrives with 2 horses extra. One is John's, but the other is interesting considering there was 1 horse for each member and wagon in all the shots we got, and Armin's got booted, so oh well, I guess. Maybe she got it from some dead person. Hey, Editing Ninjask here. Totally made a whoopsie-daisy here and realized that one of the horses could have been either Ness or Cease's horse from earlier, the guys who died. But that still kind of carries with it why Krista didn't run into both of them or any of them at all. So that's still a little bit of luck, but whatever. We get some reinforced characterization of Krista, being that she is pure of heart as she went out of her way to save John's horse and bring an extra to them, while another group doesn't even bother trying to help. She says she just happened to be nearby, though, which is a point against the plot, because if Krista wasn't the one in one of these nearby squads disregarding the right flank, because then she'd be dead instead, it's likely nobody would have helped them, as Reiner says. That's a big contrivance, and it's starting to add up now, but I do want to compliment the little bit of comedy we get. She makes a cute face and says she's happy that everyone survived. The others then remark that she's like a goddess, and Reiner says he wants to marry her. Tone is a hard thing to pin, but the comedy works here for a few reasons. 1, the little peeks we get into Krista so far make this a reasonable thing to say, justifying the setup. 2, the cartoonish perfectness of this character stuns the others, leading them to an overdramatic reaction. 3, the more we learn about this character recontextualizes this saint to become a lot more realistic, as it would be strange to have a pure-hearted and joyful character in a dystopia torn by war and watching her friends die in battle.
It is only natural.
The others regroup, but are surprised to see that the mission is continuing. Despite the heavy losses, Erwin has called nothing off. Don't worry though, this guy is the exact opposite of Holdo. Meanwhile, the female Titan jump ropes with multiple soldiers and takes the time to menacingly walk up to one of them while whipping one around like a lasso. This would be pretty intimidating, but I can't get over the fact that you have places to be and scaring this guy in particular does nothing for you. She then continues to waste her time with even more randos. Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, main antagonist of the season, doing great so far. Now we are at our next action set piece, the creatively named Forest of Giant Trees. Erwin and Levi's squad, along with Eren, head into the forest, ordering all other squads to prevent Titans from entering the forest. John does some graveyard humor to add some extra personality to him, and Armin attempts to piece together what Erwin could be planning. Armin then realizes that Erwin must know that the female Titan is searching for Eren, and concludes that the reason he is doing this is to end the female Titan's attack. On Titan. Here and now. So we cut to his squad, and they don't have their hoods on. That's okay, though, as we'll see. So the female Titan appears, running at top speed, slaughtering everyone in her path. So the group asks for orders as they're panicking, and Levi just fires a signal to get their attention, reminding them that they're here to protect Eren, not start an offensive. Levi is cool under pressure, fitting for humanity's strongest soldier. Eren can't grasp sacrificing this many lives due to his greenness and idealism, so he contemplates transforming into a Titan, and Levi just leaves the choice up to him. He can trust himself and his own strength, or he can put his faith in a collective. Levi tells him to just make a decision that he won't regret. This is a defining moment for Eren. But before that, we get a flashback. Okay, so what it essentially explains is that Eren can't turn into a Titan unless 2 requirements are met. Self-harm and a purpose. When told to transform on his own, he couldn't, at least not without a goal. But when he reached for a spoon and his arms weren't long enough, he hurt his bite wound, causing him to transform. Naturally, everyone became on edge and threatened him. But Hanji found the spoon in the Titan's hand and determined that every time he transformed, he needed a clear goal. Lift the boulder, stop the cannon, reach the spoon, etc. So, as apologies for almost killing him, the Levi squad collectively bites their own hand. One of them asks that they trust Eren, and that Eren rely on them as well. Now he makes his decision. He decides he won't run headfirst at the bullies this time. He won't run ahead of his girlfriend now. He won't pointlessly get his butt kicked. He trusts them, stomaching the death of his comrades. And Erwin unveils his plan, using secret artillery to capture the female Titan. A great payoff. Well done. A great moment for both Eren and Erwin here. Eren learns to rely on others and matures a bit in his thinking, letting some people die in hopes that his squad will reward his faith, and they do. And Erwin executes a well-thought-out plan. The plan was to draw out the female Titan. As such, he set out on an expedition under the guise of starting a base outside the walls. Anyone would think that those wagons possessed supplies for such a base, meaning, even if the female Titan were, she would be none the wiser. In addition, leaving everyone's hoods off reveals who Eren is, causing the female Titan, whoever she is, to walk right into the trap. The forest is also perfect for ODM gear, making it the perfect excuse for feigning a military operation, but in reality laying a trap. That's all the stuff the plan has going in its favor, and it's quite a laundry list. Big thumbs up there. Also, as the recruits around the perimeter speculate about what might have happened, they remark it sounded like cannon fire, and Reiner says, small detail, but neat, and we'll get to why next time. John and Armin piece together that Erwin probably wanted to capture the female Titan and hid the plan because it's likely her identity is a mole in the Survey Corps. Reasonable to think, given the info they had, but also demonstrating these characters' intelligence, mostly John's, because Armin should already know who it is. But then John suggests that Erwin could have informed them all and more people could have lived. And Armin has to explain to him that nobody can predict everything and that he's talking with the benefit of hindsight. Why is John an idiot now? He just saw through Erwin's entire plan. Why does he not understand the basic rules of life now? We need Armin to deliver a speech about the themes though, so we figured out this way to prompt it. Armin states that people who are capable of change have to be capable of abandoning everything, even their own humanity, and that the people who can't will never create change. I take issue with how this was prompted, but this idea has a lot of potential to be extremely compelling. Of course, that depends on execution. I hope we don't mess it up. Now we are revealed a new Titan ability, Getting Hard. They can harden their skin to essentially create armor that can't be cut by the blades. So this guy Levi starts taunting the female Titan instead of just cutting off her wrists. Hope this doesn't happen a lot and that he learns from this. In reaction to that information, she screams, calling Titans to herself. The Titans start eating her body, and the humans can't stop them, so the female Titan is eaten. But it's not over. Erwin expects that the person inside was not eaten, and he's correct. But I guess they just missed the person swinging out with their ODM gear. I guess there was smoke, but you had the body surrounded, and there's no way you weren't just looking at the neck. Somebody swinging around would just make it even more obvious because I would move the smoke around. Whatever. So the female Titan, who I have not yet deduced the identity of, has a signal gun and equipment. We get this line now.
超大型巨人が消えた時、中身は立体起動装置をあらかじめ装備していたから、蒸気に紛れて素早く逃げることができた。
I'm calling bullcrap here. Flying through steam at high speeds is going to bring attention to you as you dispel the smoke. The Colossal Titan maybe has that excuse because of how much smoke it makes, but how could you have possibly escaped unnoticed, especially given that they would be watching your neck specifically, where you have to emerge from? Armin decides that the reason the Titans stopped attacking in Trost was because they noticed Eren. They didn't break any further into the walls for this reason. So, they changed mission objective to get Eren after witnessing him transform, meaning the female Titan is someone who was at Trost. Who could it be? So the female Titan transforms once again. Eren was exhausted because he's new to this, but she can keep her gear and stamina after a little bit of rest. The Levi squad falls behind to stall her, beckoning Eren to not transform this time due to the risk, and Eren leaves it to them once again, heading to HQ at full speed. At the same time, Erwin says that they must take risks, not always being able to choose the best course of action. The Levi squad holds their own for a time, but they get toasted, and I have a few problems with how. So they feign an attack on the nape, but go for the eyes instead. But the angle they're attacking at looks like she could just grab both of them and crush them. But hey, not like that worked before. So she puts her neck against the tree and covers it, but they attack her arms and her muscles give out. Smart strategy, as expected from the best of the best. Except, they wail on her arms for a while, and she is just not hardening for some reason. But she can prioritize regenerating one eye specifically more quickly. So with the element of surprise, she bites one of them in half and kicks the other two into a pulp. Hardening your arms gives you more time to regenerate. There is no need to cut it that close. Wait a second, did she just... She did. You could harden your nape this whole time? Why did you ever waste time putting your arms up? This whole section has just been... Oh my... Can something good happen, please? Oh, hey, it actually does. Eren transforms in rage. He made the wrong call trusting them. If he had transformed and fought with them, there may have been a chance. Some gripping stuff. The person who felt so responsible just watching other soldiers get killed has now inadvertently led to the death of the entire squad that he trusted in. He made the right decision trusting them once, but the second time has cost them everything. Now, Eren fights simply to avenge them, endangering himself and everyone else for revenge, to let them rely on his strength one more time, even though it's too late. Eren's characterization is extremely solid here. Compliments to the chef. On another note, Eren's GF heads toward her Pookie Bear the second that Titan scream is heard. Eren reflects on his decisions and plans to make her suffer for it, but that allows her time to heal and she kicks his buttocks by getting hard. Eren puts up a fight though, but he stops. Something about this feels familiar. Eren realizes who this is. And guess what? Rare subtlety. I inferred that from him hesitating. He doesn't even say a word. He doesn't need to. Clap it up. There we go. This hesitation costs him, and he gets eaten. Don't worry, though. He's just being carried in her mouth. Hey, that's the first subversion that actually works. She eats him, not to fake out the audience into believing that he's dead, but to carry him while leaving access to her limbs for defense. It just happens to do both. Nice. So Eren's GF arrives, and she almost beats the female Titan single-handedly. The rookie. She what? 3-on-1 with the best of the best, and they get swatted like flies. But she dodges multiple attacks, cuts limbs, bobbing and weaving like she's Goku. The others didn't even dodge one attack, let alone land hits after. And why isn't the female Titan hardening? Did she forget? No, actually, that one's fine. Maybe she's too tired. Still, why is she better than 3 top soldiers combined? Whoops. Looks like, she membered now. Guess she's just an idiot then. Why are you still hardening your hands? We know you can harden your neck, you erratic Karen. My gosh, you are stupid. Stop sandbagging and kill her. Why do you refuse to use your hands? You make this so much harder on yourself for no reason. Kill yourself. Levi has to pull her back. She doesn't even lose. Where have I seen this before? Eren's GF plays diversion, and Levi goes absolutely dog wild, ripping and tearing everything away without giving it time to get hard. Eren's GF goes for the nape, but the female Titan almost kills her for it, and Levi has to save her life and get Eren in one fell swoop. But he breaks his leg in doing it, and this has no consequences in future. So they retreat, and the female Titan is crying? Okay. Can't wait to get some answers on that. The families of the Levi squad await their arrival, not knowing that no one is coming home this time. I just wish we had more time to feel their pain and care about the lives that were lost, but the scene hits decently, as do the following scenes where everyone feels survivor's guilt. I especially like this moment where soldiers ask permission to recover their friend's body in the forest. They ask if Erwin and Levi feel any emotion at all, and they walk off silently. They are unshaken on the outside. You know that they're hurting, but they have to be stoic. Levi especially, having lost his squad on top of the other sacrifices. Those same soldiers then go back for their friend's corpse, leading Titans right to everyone. The only choice then is to dump the bodies left for the sake of speed. Afterward, Levi gives the soldier a badge, one which his friend wore that Levi took off his corpse before dumping them. He does care, but either for the sake of morale or because so many losses have beat it out of him. Perhaps both. He doesn't show it. The sacrifices that were made in a failed attempt to capture the female Titan, the lives lost, every single one of them, though they were sacrificed, mattered to these leaders. The Survey Corps is mocked by the taxpayers, accosted by the grieving, and faced with the guilt of being the lucky ones to survive. It's a great few scenes. They are then summoned to the capital to face judgment. Now, the whole female Titan arc has been a bit shaky. Rumbly, you could say. But these last few scenes are where AOT is at its strongest. These little moments where no one is saying anything and you can still almost hear them speaking. Look at these expressions. Me timbers be shiverin'. Next, we transition to Annie, having a quick flashback of her father seemingly training her. We get a bit of world building in that the military police are corrupt, given that they barely bother to give orders before giving up, and you can clearly see that they're just drinking in there. Doesn't stop a character from telling us what we just saw, though. This prompts the idealist Marlowe into a tirade about restoring order to the military police. Then we see some military policemen selling weapons to a company. Marlowe confronts them for misappropriating government funds, and they beat him up. They tell him that they will arrest him, and that their crime will be overlooked. Annie stops them as a crowd gathers around the ruckus. Marlowe starts tweaking and debates shooting the scumbags, but he can't bring himself to do it. He asks, This causes Marlowe to wonder if he is just a cog in the system, to which Annie responds, For the most part, I like this scene. The officers try to bribe Marlowe, but he doesn't falter, showing us rather than telling us that he means what he says, that he's good at heart. The military police saying that this will be overlooked is a subtle way of saying that this corruption likely goes to the top. Not too subtle, but acceptable. At least they didn't spell it out. Annie stopping them characterizes her as empathetic. She even offers to join in killing them. Not sure how you get away with that given the crowd, though, and it is especially not in Annie's interest to get in trouble, so that's not great. But this is an interesting commentary on humans and their relationship to systems, saying that they will likely feel forced to execute their commands while being part of one, implying that people who don't are something special, but stating outright that those who aren't are no less human in and of themselves. I'm not sure Annie saying this was particularly prompted, so there's that too, but this show definitely has something to say about individualism in that regard. Combine that with those who bring about change must sacrifice, possibly giving everything to do so, and we have some of the main themes of Attack on Titan. Ones which I am excited to explore. Moving on, Armin calls out to Annie from an alleyway. Armin explains that he's trying to get Eren out of the city and obtain some form of vindication that could prove Eren's usefulness to humanity. And to do that, he needs the military police's help. Annie asks if she looks like a good person that would help him, and Armin says that he doesn't like that term. Good people are the people who are useful to you, and bad people are those who aren't. In other words, it's a completely relative term. These similar viewpoints convince Annie to join them, and she puts on a ring. So they head past the suspiciously empty streets into an underground passageway, but Annie stops. After some back and forth, Armin asks why she had Marco's ODM gear on. You see, he recognized it because he and Marco worked on their gear together. Wow! It should be obvious at this point that Marco is not a character. He is a plot device. He motivates John and tips Armin off. So lame. And the worst part is that this isn't even necessary. Eren's hair is brown. His Titan's hair is brown. The female Titan is blonde. Its human must be blonde. Or at least that is not that big of a leap. In a flashback, Eren's GF specifically brings up that her and the female Titan look similar, so they even use appearance as an argument in this show. She spares Armin and John when mercilessly killing literally everyone else. She specifically responds to the nickname Suicidal Idiot and not the name Eren. Eren seemed to recognize her fighting style in the forest. Come on! Annie asks a good question. Why say nothing if you noticed it when the Titans were killed? Armin has a great answer. You see, he just didn't want to believe it. He wanted to be wrong. So he hoped he was, and he said nothing. She brings a dead man's ODM gear to inspection, and you say nothing because you don't want to. They are specifically looking for a traitor, but it's someone you don't want it to be, so you say nothing. Everyone who died to the female Titan died because you said nothing. Armin doesn't wrestle with this in any way. He doesn't have any regrets about saying nothing. He thinks that's a fine excuse. You could say that having Marco's gear is nowhere near enough for a conviction, and you're probably right. But Eyes on Her ends the 57th scouting mission before it even starts. Okay, where were we? Please no more stupid. She says she never could have imagined sparing Armin would lead her to being cornered like this, because you made it so difficult to guess who you were. Eren's GF decides she's had enough talk, and stops to talk, instead of just attacking or restraining Annie. She threatens her with a sword. You are asking her to transform, and now she's biting herself. Great job. Annie then has a maniacal laugh moment. You are not Light Yagami. You're more like Light Turner. Before she can bite herself, Armin fires a signal gun, and people rush out. Just look at her reaction time for a second. So this extremely competent combatant fails to bite herself before a crowd of people can rush at her. Incredible. This guy parkoured off of a roof? Where did this lady come from? How is she in the middle of the road? She even reacts, but she refuses to transform. What is this clownery? You're supposed to take this scene seriously, by the way. This is a major betrayal into our big reveal. I know manga is still images, so it's a little bit different in terms of translating motion to an anime, but who signed off on this? I take it back, I love this show. Just replace the music and it's completely fine. So they grab her and gag her so that she can't transform by biting herself, but her ring has a switchblade in it and she uses it to transform anyway. This payoff does not work, because not only is it ridiculous how she got restricted in the first place, but we are supposed to believe that she is smart for bringing this along, like she outplayed them. So she put the ring on before agreeing to this plan. Why not wear the ring at all times? Wait a minute, if she smelled a trap, why agree at all? The obvious defense for this is to say that they are going to move Eren so she can't lose him. This would work as a shield for now, but later establishments in the story prevent that from being the case. But I will bring up those issues as they appear, even though it's pretty much confirmed by Season 1. Everything involving the mere idea of the female Titan has some sort of fault. The gang runs through the underground passage in an attempt to regroup with the... Wait, why aren't you using your ODM gear to move faster? I know you can swing on stone. This isn't Link's hookshot. Annie crushes the tunnel at a random spot, and it just so happens to crush two randos and cut off the gang because they weren't moving faster. Wow. If the characters had used their ODM gear, she either kills them or misses and they get away. If she stomps slightly to the left or right, Eren and co have reinforcements to back their offensive. Not a great start to our climactic battle. Annie just starts stomping randomly, putting our heroes on an unknown time limit. Eren attempts to transform to create a shield, but fails to, as he doesn't want to fight Annie. Eren's GF tries to convince him that Annie is not the same as the female Titan, but he can't separate the two. She stares like a complete psychopath, by the way. I know y'all find her hot, but I'm good. Oh, hey, I just realized something. You remember this? Bertolt, Armin, and Eren's GF retrieve him from the field. So Annie could have transformed into a Titan that whole time, and Eren just transformed in front of her. After this moment, he became priority number 1. So why not transform then and escape? You could make a break for the open gate and call reinforcements just in case. Considering the gambles she's taking now with the stomping, I figure she'd risk this. Actually, I'm being unfair. I mean, she's playing risky because she's cornered. Look at who was there. Armin, Eren's GF, John, Reiner, Bertolt. It's fair to think that she might not be able to 5-on-1 all of them, even though she clapped the Levi squad's cheeks. So, you know what? It's okay. Back to the matter at hand. Armin decides that he and Eren's GF will both exit through the holes in the cave at the same time. She'll be forced to focus on one, and Eren will escape with the one that she does not target. So you could use ODM gear in here! Eren asks them how they can still fight, and his girlfriend responds, an interesting reflection of how those two met, with Eren being the one who is unable to stand and fight now. Eren's GF is still defined by protect Eren alone, so it hits a little hollow coming from her, but for Eren himself this is meaningful. The enemy which he geared himself up to hate, to slaughter every last one, has turned out to be someone living next door. He can't process it. The enemy of humanity is human, and it's someone he knows personally. This is ripe with drama. And we're back. So she happened to stomp exactly above where Eren was at the exact moment that no one was nearby to react, causing Eren to die from falling debris. Just kidding! Again. He's barely hanging on. Meanwhile, Eren's girlfriend gets hit by some debris from Annie slapping a building, and she falls from about building height at high speed, causing her to roll out. Dang, she survives that a lot. And also, I know Eren has regenerative abilities, but guess what? No, he doesn't. You see, when he's unable to transform, he doesn't regenerate, as established prior. So he should be dead. She should be dead. Heck, Armin should be dead. This show has plot armor with a U in it. Erwin and the scouts reveal their plan to the military police, and move to help with the female Titan. There's this little moment I like where John looks at the military police taking it easy and reflects on the idea of being one of them. Can you tell that John is the best part of the show yet? So backup arrives, and Eren's GF just swings back in. At least Armin and Eren's heads were bloody. John shows up to help Armin get Eren out of the rubble, and we get this really strong moment where he pours out his heart about Eren needing to give them a better reason to give their lives. I like this speech. It's pretty great. So Armin and John lead Annie away, but surprise, surprise, they had a trap laid. However, they didn't have enough traps left, so she gets out and, oh my gosh, she's at it again! Bro, look at that speed. She rolls like Sonic the freaking Hedgehog, but she didn't lose any rings at all from it. Stop doing this! After a speech from Armin, Eren steps up and learns to forget his ideals, forget factions, because none of that matters in the here and now. And here I thought John would be the one to convince him. That would have been an incredible payoff for their relationship and last interaction, as well as stemming from John and Eren's arcs this season. That could have been one of the strongest scenes of the season, but sure, give it to Armin, who just tells Eren about the whole giving up everything to become a monster and win thing. I know that is the theme, but John literally could have just been some random guy who helped move some debris, and nothing in this scene would change. That setup before the 57th expedition just has no payoff now. Please make use of your other characters. They are not just static now that their arc has finished. And he pulls it off and gets big. The rematch of the season begins now. Okay, here we go! So we just cut to some random church service where they're worshipping the walls and holy crap, they're dead! Everyone is dead! Side note, everyone is not dead. The named character survived though. How? That building is gone. What is this, bro? Wait, why is the building back? How did it regrow? Now it's just a big hole? What? Brother, man. Oh yeah, you wanna know something cool? So, Eren has full control of his Titan now. So, with full control, Eren punches her into a building full of people who are now dead. No, you had one job. Aside from John, the one thing I have consistently been praising is Eren's character arc. Why is this Man of Steel now? Why did you specifically let us know a crowd was in there? I would have just called him reckless. And no, this is not giving up your humanity and becoming a monster to create change. Those people did not need to die. He punched her into that building. I don't buy that for a second. He is killing the people he is trying to save. Innocent civilians. While Erwin was sacrificing soldiers, people who signed up knowing that they may die. These are not the same thing. Annie runs over to level ground so that no one can interfere with their ODM gear, and it's a one-on-one with the Undertaker. Eren ponders what Annie is fighting for. Get this. He says, why would you make him say that? So they keep fighting and, yeah. Meanwhile, a military policeman says, great job, Eren. The military policeman asks him if this was his doing, and Erwin takes full accountability. He says he does not intend to make any excuses and that this is all for the sake of humanity. The military policeman says that he could execute him for this, and Erwin just says, yeah, okay, I don't care, but if you do, don't lose. Pael's in charge of the troops, Vyler's got supplies, corner the Titan at the east wall. I believe this is a step in the right direction. This makes them lower their guns. That is just kinda raw, I can't lie. Erwin is a man who is able to make sacrifices for the greater good of his side. He doesn't even care about his own life. Of course, he doesn't want casualties, but he doesn't know that Eren is being directed by Zack Snyder right now.
That's a fun way to start it. I'm sure these guys are fine.
So Annie gets rock hard and beats the crap out of Eren. Eren goes crazy and rushes back in, trampling Annie into a marketplace filled with people. Now, he has lost it. He beats her while missing an arm and a leg, but she throws him off and tries to climb the wall. Eren clings on to her, though, causing her to kick off her own leg. But a surprise save from Eren's girlfriend! She cuts the fleshy part of Annie's fingers off, causing her to fall. As Eren rips her nape off, she thinks of her father. He tells her not to forgive him, and that she may have to turn against the world, but she will always have him. Vague stuff which we will certainly get answers for eventually. Eren sees her crying and snaps out of his crazed state, but something strange happens. Annie encases herself in hardened skin. They make a point to show that steel has no effect, even though earlier steel was slowly whittling it. This last resort move seems to have been made of something a bit stronger. Good attention to detail. In the aftermath, Erwin explains himself, and the Survey Corps survives for now, though they can get nothing from Annie. Armin and Eren's girlfriend stand beside him as he wakes up, and oh, look, John's here too. Really good stuff there. There was a moment, though, where Eren hesitated. Before she had sealed herself, Eren could have grabbed her while she was crying, losing any chance of interrogation because he couldn't. He is not yet ready to become a monster. Armin says that he can be in time, and boy do I agree with that. But John asks the all-important question. Armin has no response. He simply thinks to himself. Erwin says that they have much more of a knowledge advantage compared to before, so this was not entirely pointless. There are allies to the Titans within the walls, and now we can bring the fight to them. With Annie in custody and their summons to the capital on hold, so ends Attack on Titan, Season 1. Also, there are Titans inside your walls. Ooh boy, that was a lot to break down. My overall thoughts are that this show is, to put it lightly, rough around the edges so far. Up until Trost, the plot had been in decent shape. Sure, there were a few contrivances and some plot armor here and there, but it was certainly passable. Once we got into the female Titan, the plot fell apart. The decisions some of the characters made were entirely nonsensical. Early on, the story has a very consistent flowchart. You have bad thing, into inspiring speech, into bad thing, into inspiring speech, into bad thing.
You get it!
That sequence makes up most of the first 16 episodes, but is luckily not present in as much spades after, even though the second half of the season is undoubtedly worse than the first. The plot armor is bubonic, as it manages to protect everyone from the most absurd of situations that they should, if the stakes are applied equally to all characters named and unnamed, be killed by. Some of the conveniences and contrivances are of astronomical odds. However, the soundtrack is absolute gold, conveying the proper emotion with powerful effect. The animation is pristine and the production quality overall is great. The entire cast gave some incredible performances. Let's see. Other than that, there's the dialogue, which is not very good, spoon-feeding the audience information that can easily be inferred or information that is completely unprompted to lay the groundwork for character or drama. In the interest of full transparency, I should probably let you know where I get my visuals from. You may have noticed that the words I'm saying in the footage do not line up occasionally, and there is a reason for that. The visuals which you have seen and will continue to see throughout this series come from the Blu-ray release, but the show was watched on the Crunchyroll/Funimation official website, and the script was written based off of that. I cannot show you the Crunchyroll version of the footage for obvious reasons. But since I am complaining about the dialogue, it is probably important that I show you the Crunchyroll subtitles compared to those of the Blu-ray. Here are a couple of the screenshots from the lines that I've complained about. Just in case you were watching it through Crunchyroll and thought something was off, this is why. But as you can see, the Blu-ray subtitles are very, very close to accurate, and the differences pretty much just boil down to synonyms. The root of my criticism, which is essentially that it's extremely unsubtle and tell don't show, and constantly just characters spoon-feeding you information, as well as it coming off very unnatural and robotic for the sake of the audience, still persists. So, yeah. Speaking of, let's talk character. Let's start with the main three. Eren Yeager is very much a tragic character. He is shown to be headstrong, impatient, and unyielding. He has a determined heart motivated by loss and a desire to change the status quo for himself and others. Freedom, to not be cattle, scrambling for grass in a pen too small for themselves. That being said, his goals seem to have almost a sadistic undertone to them. He seems to revel in the thought of extinguishing every Titan. Not exactly the most stable, as you'd expect given his upbringing. But his journey to not back down in the face of overwhelming odds and to keep fighting even when the situation gets a little more complicated is quite intriguing. He cares for people. He values doing the right thing. Every death takes a toll, especially the ones that he blames himself for. By the end of the season, he has grown to rely on others more, but also grown in his own strength. No longer is he the boy who'd run headfirst into a fist. Now he punches back. This has the makings of a strong character. He has a clear arc, though some liberties were taken with the plot to get him there. Except, he has managed to contradict his caring nature by endangering people for no reason. Before he goes completely berserk, he has no reason to crash through buildings, to throw his opponent into civilians specifically. He and everyone else don't even bat an eye at that fact either because they think he is justified in causing unnecessary amounts of damage, or because the story does not even realize it is a problem. Either are very bad. It borders on character assassination, but that is only one aspect of his character, though it's quite central to his entire arc throughout this. Frick it, for no other reason than why not, let's have a go at fixing his characterization during this final fight. So I would basically keep everything the same up until John's speech to him. But what I would replace is that it would be John's speech that gets him to initially transform. No, this is not just because I love John, but also because, as it is, that payoff is extremely flimsy. The battle would then proceed around the same fashion, Eren unable to deal with the superior fighter Annie and her hardening abilities. However, there would be no rampant destruction this time. Instead, Eren would be losing, not just because she is the stronger combatant, but also because he is still soft. John's speech to motivate him has put in his head that he must fight to make sure his allies can put their full trust in him and lives. But throughout the battle, he would miss obvious holes in her offense and defense, and not swing at all when the opportunity presents itself, because the casualties would simply be too great for him to handle. The environmental hazards would have to be a little bit different. There would have to be a little less space to maneuver around, which I don't think interferes with anything else in this show, so that should be fine. So that there's less option to avoid the buildings entirely. Eren gets beaten and knocked down just as he normally does. So out of panic, the Survey Corps and military police are forced to rush in. The loss of life would be rampant. Armin, who had noticed Eren's hesitation throughout, would then come and deliver his same speech that gets him to transform, but tweaked slightly so that it focuses more on Eren's resistance to civilian casualties. Again, not a big fan of double motivational speech back-to-back, but as it stands in the show, John's motivational speech basically gets nothing, and Eren's GF and Armin's speech are the only ones that actually affect him. So if it's in here already, we'll just make use of it. It's not that big of a problem anyway. A couple episodes ago, they were spamming the motivational speech thing, but right now they kind of haven't in a while. Through a combination of this speech, John's prior one, and his newfound ability to stomach loss of life on his account that he got in the Forest of Giant Trees, Eren would shriek with rage and catch Annie, who's dealing with the troops, off guard. Events could then proceed as is. There. See how much better that is? We make use of the other characters as opposed to just Armin and Eren's GF, have the military police work with the Survey Corps to show that they aren't just stupidly lazy scumbags, and still keep our thematic through line, even improving it a bit in its execution if I do say so myself. Other than that, he has a moving string of arcs that are connected together rather well. He is weak until he learns to harness a strength that is unlike any other. Then, he is unable to deal with the complications of being in a war, the decisions you must make conflating with his established idealism. Letting people die is not Eren Yeager. Then he must wrestle with an enemy who hits close to, no, is home. Another human, a soldier, a friend. This baffles him until he learns that sacrifices must be made, and his ideals are not reality. He is now on a path towards sinking further into that philosophy of sacrificing his own humanity in order to make change. He is a mostly solid character, but that fight at the end undoubtedly hurts him. I would be lying if I say he does not have potential here on out, though. Okay, main character number 2. Armin Arlelt has a great journey lasting until about episode 16. He starts as a smart but cowardly individual with low self-esteem. Similar to Eren, he is motivated by loss. He is even weaker than Eren, however, but he always has a plan. After constantly screwing things up for his friends, by virtue of freezing in fear or a panic attack, he battles with his own self-image. No matter how smart the person, he is completely useless if he can't act on anything. But he doesn't even see the usefulness his abilities have by virtue of being unable to act in the first place. It is his relationship with Eren and his girlfriend that saves him from this hole. The idea that his friends, who are so much stronger than him in his own eyes, would rely on him for something as big as their own lives is enough for him to buy that maybe there is something that they see in him. This arc is great, and it is very well paced. Armin is generally kept consistent in regards to his intelligence. His plans are pretty smart and don't really have any holes, which makes it so frustrating that he seems to not give a second thought to the fact that he is basically responsible for the crisis that the female Titan caused. What relationship did he even have with Annie that would affect him to not report her? There was nothing to define them prior. She literally only interacted with Eren out of our main 3, at least in any meaningful way. This decision is totally glossed over. Armin does not bat an eye at this. The only explanation is that he didn't want reality to be real. We needed more. Either bolster a relationship with Annie, leading to the logical character abandoning logic in a moment of weakness and blaming himself afterwards, or, like I said, cut this out entirely and have him piece together the hints that are outside of this. With the establishment of how compassionate Armin is, regardless of whether or not it actually was his fault, he would absolutely blame himself for this decision. And in this case, it is his fault. These two are so frustrating as they have such a great foundation, but they both make these unnecessary decisions that destroy part of their characterization. Other characters, however, are in one of two camps. A singular arc into becoming static, or not having any personality whatsoever. Our other main character personifies the latter. Mikasa Ackerman is an absolute wet blanket sandwich of a character, and the sandwich is made of nothing burger. She is singularly defined by loving Eren. There's Armin too, but what else can you really say? She is talented and strong, and Eren taught her to fight even though the world is cruel. What is her motive? Eren. Why does she have that motive? Eren. What does she talk about? Eren. What are her mannerisms? Eren. She is absurdly talented and better than almost everyone, even those with 10 times the experience. She can beat up the female Titan when her superiors put up less than half of that fight. Why? She's just that good.
Or Eren.
She is a vacuum of character. Horrible. What else is there to even say about her? This, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is the 10th most popular character of all time on AniList and the 17th on my anime list. Freaking brilliant. If your character has nothing, just make them hot, and you've got at least a top 20 character of all time on your hands. I genuinely want to ask any of these people what they find to be so good about this character, but calling her that is an insult to characters. So those were our main protagonists. But what of our antagonists? So the Titans themselves are intimidating forces of nature, very little depth to them in particular. They are a force to be reckoned with and are consistent in their behavior. But we also have our main antagonist, whose reveal shocked literally everyone worldwide. So I went to find this Watch Mojo video to get a clip of them saying, Top 10 anime villain reveals. Only to find she was on the list. Never change, Watch Mojo. Never change. Annie Leonhardt is an interesting piece when looking at her Season 1 depiction alone. She manages to be the author's commentary on the subjects of the series. But there are many problems with her depiction that make her contradictory. She has many little moments that seem to provide depth to her, that being her constant tear-shedding and seemingly righteous motivation to help those who are stuck in the machine of the status quo. How she was going to do that is a mystery for now. She seems almost sympathetic in some way. However, she is constantly making decisions to hinder herself. She spares Armin and John, which just makes her life harder, especially given these characters have now been given information that can be used to find you out. She refuses to transform at Trost when she could have won right there, and she walks right into Armin's trap despite suspecting it. This is partly the fault of plot armor in some instances, but that flaw leaks into character as well. You could argue that she spares them because she simply doesn't want to kill them specifically, but then the problem becomes, why does she spare those two despite constantly throwing around killing blows at them? Yet, when a killing blow would actually land, the plot saves them from her in some way. She is clearly fighting with the intent to kill. She is just incompetent. She also just has terrible luck in order for the plot to function as it does. She happened to take the gear off of a person that Armin happened to work with and happened to get that gear spotted by Armin in line, tipping him off when he seemingly wouldn't have figured it out otherwise, despite him having all the clues necessary. Wait. So Annie used her ODM gear and switched to Marco's to dodge the inspection? Why not just reverse the order? Use Marco's for the job and yours for inspection. You could argue that she didn't think about it, and I believe that because she's stupid, but then that also means that she just got unlucky. She had two options and happened to choose the one that gets her caught. She lost a coin toss for the plot to work. Why? The plot is picking sides. There are also things like her taking her sweet time toying with random soldiers, which kinda kills a lot of sympathy for her, so thanks for that. Whatever her backstory may be or however expanded on her motivation is, these actions are clearly contradictory and cannot reasonably have an answer. Just something I wanted to add before leaving the Annie section. So this was episode 25, and we will see her again in 81. There are 94 episodes total, and she's not the focus of most or any of them. She has like 45 minutes of screen time in the series and is a main antagonist at one point. Normally, it is difficult to have a villain show up late while not lacking character. But the solution is not to have her spitball her motivation while also contradicting her goals. You should either subtly build up traits and motivation for her, not making her too obvious, or use her later appearances well, which we will dissect in time. But yeah, that is Annie done. Our main characters are not doing so hot, either having an asterisk near the strength of their writing, just being a plank of wood, or being absolutely incompetent while being hated by the plot. So let's move on to some more positive characters. John Kirsten is in competition for the best character in the show at this moment with the person we will talk about next. He has an arc that manages to communicate a sense of progression without being stumped later on. He actually has an ounce of subtlety in his execution and feels like a real person. Him being moved by the spirit of others to become more selfless and pushed into situations where his true character shines through is impeccably executed. In addition, the death of a comrade he has grown invested in, pushing him to do the right thing, is good stuff. This man was at a point where his own safety was the top priority, despite him caring about other people. But the death of Marco made it personal. There is something to fight for, something which he had probably realized, but ignored for convenience's sake. And abandoning more of his fellow soldiers to take shelter inside the walls is something he can no longer stomach. He will make a difference now, because it is better than hiding in wait to die of hunger or of an attack on Titan. Now, however, he would be content to give his life because it would help someone else. Someone like Marco wouldn't be lost. John is a character who gets his time to shine, but is then not really focused on afterwards. He has his arc, then he is not really relevant that much anymore. He does get some smaller moments that manage to keep him engaging, though, like his use of graveyard humor and his guilty conscience about being a leader. Sometimes, however, those moments have him be dumbed down in little ways, or big ways, like not noticing Armin's bluff, or the logistics of Erwin's plan. In the case of Erwin's plan, John would of course be concerned with the lives lost, But he is also able to look at things objectively, so that is definitely just him being a dingus. I would love to know what John thinks about Annie potentially being the traitor. That has the potential to be potent, but part of me is thankful he doesn't do something borderline assassination-y. Heck, what do any of the Survey Corps members think of that revelation other than our main three? Many of the characters have one trait at the moment, but this is a missed opportunity to give them some much-needed characterization. Some characters continue to have one trait for the whole show, yet we refuse to take time to get to know them. We cannot emotionally invest in characters that aren't characters. But this show puts its characters into situations where personality could be drawn out naturally, yet doesn't give them the time of day. Sorry, I said I'd be positive, but that segue into talking about the missed opportunities of character work worked a little too well. On to Erwin Smith. The man is a cold and calculated commander on the outside, but cares deeply on the inside. He is a gambler at heart, constantly making sacrifices with lives in an attempt to give his side better odds. Though he cares, it doesn't matter how many people die if we just get one step closer to winning. Erwin doesn't even care if he dies, just that mankind wins. He is extremely competent in playing the information game, like with the traps in the wagons. In addition, it was smart to not let the team know which squad had Eren. He is cunning and ruthlessly efficient. He is one of the best parts of this season and will have some of the best moments in the show later. Daisuke Ono killed this role, though he pretty much does every role. More generally, many of the characters are flat. Characters that die exist solely for the purpose of dying. There was nobody we knew as people before they were killed off. The most we get is that they are nice people to our characters, but that is all. We need more to invest. The music can only carry so much. The writing needs to put in the legwork here. Levi seems interesting, but what we get for him are building blocks. He is an experienced soldier who cares a lot about his men and is calm and collected despite losing many of them constantly. We get some very strong moments for him, his constant despondent expressions contrasted by his more humanizing traits, like his advice to Eren about his decision-making and his sympathy towards the soldiers who lost a friend. On the negative side, there is that dumb moment where he explains to the female Titan exactly what he's going to do and that he enjoys taking revenge for those fallen, as opposed to just straight up doing it. You could have just said all that to Annie when you got her out if you really needed to get that off your chest, but whatever. He is strong, cool, and good at heart. But that is not enough. What is his flaw? How must he grow and change? There is no answer this season. Now, to some extent, this can be covered by the fact that there is a lot more of the show to go. But these were the first 25 episodes out of 94, over a quarter of the entire show, and we have 5 characters, half of which are fully functional. Then we have the themes, which at this point are the world is cruel and becoming a monster in order to make change. I'll talk about this very briefly since this video is already long enough, and I've touched on them a little bit already. Both are ripe with potential, but their execution is what really lets them down. Eren's GF is the main device for the world being cruel, and she, again, does everything because Eren, making it hit a lot more hollow than it should. Eren is meant to tackle both the world being cruel and becoming a monster in order to make change, but both are butchered by his antics. He realizes the world's cruelty, motivating him to fight Annie, only to be willing to murder thousands of civilians after, but then be unwilling to hurt Annie when he sees her crying. Then there's him becoming a monster, which is also meant to motivate him, but mass murder hurts that as well. Armin also says that Eren's not a monster yet, so he just, I guess, doesn't care about the tons of civilians dead after all. These two themes were meant to culminate in the final fight, leading to a crescendo for Eren's arc, but his botched characterization undermines the both of them. There are other themes that are present or hinted at, but I will wait for the show to dive into them before discussing them in any detail. So, what is there to say about Attack on Titan Season 1? Well, we have an interesting world set up and characters that have potential despite many of them making strange decisions for their established characteristics, an interesting set of themes which will presumably be explored in more depth later, but the plot is in tatters and elements that are semi-superficial, like the score and animation quality, don't boost it enough to save it. I would be lying if I said I wasn't interested to see the answers to some of the mysteries and where it all goes from here, though. The adventure continues in Season 2, but for now I am giving this one a 4 out of 10. Thank you all so very much for watching. I appreciate you staying with me throughout the length of this entire video if you've made it this far. This is the first of what is going to be many long men. So, just a warning, this script for Season 1 is about 46 pages in total, and this video came about over an hour 30. So, despite this being 25 episodes total, all of my later scripts are longer. Some almost double. So, you guys are in it for the long haul with this one. Anyways, if you liked everything you saw, go ahead and please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, whatever. For now, it's back to the editing dungeon for me. Stay tuned for part 2. It should be out sometime. The narration. Whoa. Anyways, run that back. The narration. I said it again. How did I? The man is a cold and calculated command. Calculated? That's not how you say that word. Armin's getting bullied for winning an argument, and Eren and Mikasa save him. You see, whoa, that's incredible, actually. I just said I'll be calling her Eren's girlfriend from now on, and I refer to her as Mikasa the next time I mention her in the script. That's nice writing there. Nice one. Takes Eren and Mikasa with him. Then you refer to her as Mikasa again. Whatever.